Staying with India, between 15 and 29 million Indians died of starvation in British-induced famines. The most famous example, of course, was the Great Bengal Famine during the Second World War, when 4 million people died because Winston Churchill deliberately, as a matter of written minuted policy, proceeded to divert essential supplies from civilians in Bengal to sturdy Tommies and Europeans as reserve stockpiles. He said that the starvation of anyway underfed Bengalis mattered much less than that of sturdy Greeks. This is Churchill's actual quote. And when conscience-stricken British officials wrote to him, pointing out that people were dying because of this decision, he peevishly wrote in the margins of the file, "Why hasn't Gandhi died yet?"
Sashi Tharoor claims that British policies on famines which killed 35 million Indians and totally unnecessary man-made disasters because of British policy, similar to the policies in Ireland that led to so many deaths from the Great Potato Blight and led Irish people to flee to America. Truth. During British colonial rule in India, there were several famines that occurred, including the Bengal Famine of 1770, the Great Famine of 1876-78, the 1896-97 famine, the 1899-1900 famine and the 1943 Bengal Famine. Between 1900 and 1943, there were also several other famines that occurred in India, such as the famine of 1900-1901 in the United Provinces, the famine of 1907-1908 in the Bombay Presidency, and the famine of 1918-1919 in the Bombay Presidency. The causes of these famines were primarily natural causes such as drought, floods, low farm yields, hurricanes and cyclones. These famines were not solely caused by British policies but were also due to the fact that Indians did not stockpile grain in advance, anticipating low farm yield years. It is true that British policies played a role in addressing and preventing famines. The British government implemented famine relief schemes and invested in infrastructure development such as irrigation systems, which helped to reduce the impact of famines and prevented them for 40 years prior to the 1943 Bengal famine. These famine relief schemes were continued after India's independence in 1947. After India's independence in 1947, the Indian government continued to implement the British famine relief schemes, and also invested in infrastructure development such as irrigation systems and implemented policies to increase food production and distribution. This helped to prevent a widespread famine and ensured that the Indian population did not die from starvation on a large scale. However, India did face a number of threats of severe famines in the years after 1947, such as in 1967, 1973, 1979 and 1987 in Bihar, Maharashtra, West Bengal, and Gujarat respectively. The Indian government continued to implement the British famine relief schemes and other policies to mitigate the impact of these famines and to prevent widespread starvation.